All right, so for this video, I'm going to quickly go through surfacing or setting up your textures in Maya and Substance Painter. Okay, so first thing, just really quickly, setting up things in Maya for export to Substance Painter. First thing is you have to have your objects UV'd correctly, like that. Okay, like this. So the UVs are cut up and unwrapped. Okay, so these are my UVs. And you have to assign one material per UV set. So let me explain, and you'll see how that works when you get into Substance. Okay, so if you look at this bottle, all right, I have the glass material assigned to it. Okay, and let me just change the color so you can see. Okay, so that's the glass material. And if I select the glass, the UVs are here. Okay, my UV editor, I see the UVs. Right, so if I go to my tankard wood material, right click and select objects with the material, I can see it selects these guys and all the UVs are here. Okay, so I'm going to turn this blue. All right, and this one is tankard metal. Oops, no, this one is tankard metal. There we go. So you can see, oops, missed you. You should be inside there, right? And I'll turn this to something else. Okay, so you can see here, I have my materials. And the important thing is everything with that same material is in the same UV set, right? So if I select anything with the glass material or the metal material, you see everything that has that material assigned should be in the same UV set. Okay. Same with this, same with that. So you'll see how that works once you get into Substance Painter. Right. So from here, I'm going to select all my objects, go to File, okay, and export selection. So FBX is what we want. I say export selection, and I'm going to give this a name. Let's say bottle and tankard. I'm going to put that in the FBX folder, right? So your your Maya scenes folder does not come with an FBX folder. I just made that just for organization. And I say export. So now these objects are exported for Substance. If I go into Substance Painter, okay, I go new, um, template, just the basic one, right? Select, I go looking for it. And here we have bottle and tankard. Open that. And for document resolution, this is how big your final texture is going to be. Okay, so typically we want at least 2048, right? Then I hit OK. So this is what you get. Now, if you look here under your texture set list, the layout might be a bit different for you, by the way, because I moved my stuff around. But if you look for texture set list, you have layers now, similar to Photoshop layers. So because back here in Maya, we have one material, assign it to glass and only the glass. If I go back here, the material name shows up, and I can work on that individually from everything else. Okay, so tankard material, metal is the metal parts, and tankard wood is the wooden parts. Okay, so that's an easy way of organizing things for when you get into Substance Painter. Okay, so let's work on the glass first. So I can now hide these and focus on the glass bottle, like so, right? So we just want a typical glass bottle with some smudges, right? So it's a bit grimy, not perfectly clean, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this layer because this is a paint layer. So in Substance, you have two kinds of layers. You have a paint layer and a fill layer. Okay, so a paint layer is where you can use the paint tools. Not exactly what I want right now. What I want is a fill layer, which just floods everything with a solid. Okay, so I can click fill. See, it says fill layer. This one I don't need. I can delete that. Okay. Oh, almost forgot. Before you do anything, you should bake your mesh maps. Okay, so in texture set settings, scroll down and you bake mesh maps. So what this does, let's turn these back on. There we are. Is it will create texture maps. Okay, so 2D images based on these things that are listed here. So based on the normals of your object, based on the world space normals, the ID, ambient occlusion, the position of the points, the curvature, height, all of these. Uh, Painter is going to make maps or images, and you don't need to see them. You don't need to modify them. But when you start creating textures that are procedural later on, it will refer to these maps, right? So, for example, if you're creating something like a dirt map that depends on curvature, right, or ambient occlusion, you could use these maps, right? So, if ambient occlusion, maybe you only have dirt where there are crevices, right? The rest won't get dirt, stuff like that. Okay, so it doesn't take long. You just bake selected textures and you wait for it. Okay. Okay. So now that it's done, I just say return to painting mode, and I go back here, and here you see all the maps that it made. Okay, so once you've done that, we're ready to work on our layers. Okay, so again, let's start with the glass bottle. In my fill layer, if I scroll down, these are the aspects of the material that we can edit. So there's color, height, or bump, right? Roughness, metalness, or metallic, and normal. Okay, so the way this works is you can edit all of them in one layer, or you can separate them out, right? So let's say for this one, I only want to work on roughness. So I'm disabling these other things. So everything I do now is only affecting the roughness of the bottle. Okay. So as far as roughness is concerned, black is perfectly smooth, right? And white is a matte surface. Okay. Your reflections should be somewhere in here for your roughness. Okay. So let's rename this roughness. Let's say A. And the way this works is I want to make another layer. So second layer This will be roughness B, say underscore B. Same thing, turn everything else off. But I want this to have a different value for roughness. Maybe this one is 0.6, right? So this is 0.15, let's say. Okay, so you see what's happening here? This solid layer is showing just a roughness of 0.6. If I turn it off, I see the layer underneath, which is a roughness of 0.15, right? So what I want to do now is I want to add a mask. Think of it like Photoshop as a layer mask also. So in this layer, I go up here and I say add mask, add a black mask. Okay. So remember, black is see-through, right? So I'm seeing through to this layer, which is 0.15. Okay. And then in this mask, I want to add a fill. And for the fill, I want to search for something, let's say grunge. Look for that in my layer, sorry, my textures. And I can look for a grunge texture. Maybe this, okay? And I can drag that here. So remember, I'm here in my fill, right? So this is the fill that I added to my black mask. So that has a uniform color. I can add that. And you can see, or you should see, some changes, right? So if I want to see what the roughness is without seeing everything else, I just go up here and say roughness. So this is what my roughness map looks like. Okay, if I want to edit this, I can go to projection and triplanar is usually the best. You can move that around. Then I can scale and rotate. I can adjust the balance. There we go. How intense it is. Okay, now if I go back to my material, so you can see up here, right? You should see a difference. There you go. So you get smudges. If you want to enhance the difference, you can up the balance here, or in your roughness, you can have a larger difference. Let's say this is 0.15, this would be, let's say, zero point 0.8. See? So you get a bigger difference. There you go. Now you're seeing the smudges on the glass, like here. There you go. Okay? And this is what you would export into texture so you can bring it into Maya, right? So you're not stuck with this. You can swap this out. So every time you say, oh no, maybe not that, maybe grunge fingerprints, do that. All right. Then you see, oh, that doesn't work. And you can swap things out and make your edits. Okay, so now if I go to roughness, see, now it's full of fingerprints. Okay? You can also combine these, right? So I can make another fill layer and put something else on top of that. Let's say grudge concrete. If I look at my roughness, I see that, and I can blend this. I can multiply it so I have concrete and my fingerprints. I can do like overlay, right? Let's take a look. So you just have to balance it, right? It might be too grungy, it might not be grungy enough. So that is up to what you're after. Another thing you can do is I can add a fill, no, levels, and I can adjust these again, like very much like Photoshop, right? So if I want a bit more of this, a bit less of that, or whatnot, there you go. Okay. So if you're done with this, I can turn that off, and I can go to my tankard now, right? So these parts should be wood, these parts should be metal, right? And what I can do is I can clear my search, go to my material or smart materials, and let's search for wood. Okay. So you can use some wood that's already pre-made, or you can always just download something, right? For you to use. Let's try walnut. Okay, so I'm going to my texture set list in my tankard wood layer. I'll drag that in. There you go. See, so it works nicely. This is why you have to set up your UV correctly right away. Again, I'll get rid of this paint layer. There you go. Now, this is a smart material. That means the materials are easily editable. I can open the folder and I can see all the different layers that went into making this. Right? So I can edit this if I want. I can change the color, say the base color, right? I can change it to something less saturated, more saturated, completely different color or whatnot. Okay. But I'll keep it as is. But just to show you, right? That's what a smart material is. Okay. But I feel I want some dirt on this. Okay. So let's make a new layer. Same idea. Oops. Let's make a new fill layer. Where did that go? All right. So for some reason, the new layer went into the smart material folder. Just bring it out. There you go. So this will be my dirt layer. And for my dirt layer, I want to edit color, height, and roughness, but not metal, not normals. Okay, so I can do all of this in one layer. So I want my dirt to be dirty, right? So it's not a dark green layer, right? My height, I'll just turn it up a smidgen, say 0.04. For my roughness, I'll make it a bit rougher. Okay. Now we go to our mask, black mask. So with my mask selected, I'll add a fill, and I'm going to look for dirt. And I want to look for that in my textures. So dirt, let's say splats, maybe. Let's try that. And then you have now this. You have dirt on top. So I can always now go back here and change, let's say too dark. There we go. And I want to up my height. So that means I have some height with my dirt like that. That's a bit much. But you can also go the other way. Okay. And what else? For your roughness, again, if I go down, the dirt now looks really smooth and shiny, so it's kind of like mud, so it's a bit wet. Or I can go the other way where it's really dry. Right, so there we go. And the thing you can do here is you can always keep adding, right? So there's you can put another layer of dirt on top. Okay, but right away this just seems like a little bit more interesting. And don't forget you can edit the dirt itself, right? So I can go to my projection here in my mask and then my fill layer, which I put the grunge in. I can turn my UV projection to triplanar, right? I can move it around. I can also, if I scroll down, I can scale it. So if the scale is off, like it looks too big, I can scale it a bit more like that. So that's smaller bits of dust, dirt, right? And usually these come with a balance setting and a contrast setting. Okay, so you can keep playing around with this. Okay, just like that. Once you're done, we can go on to the metal then. Now, metal is a bit different, roughly the same overall, but you want your metalness turned up. Okay, so I want to turn off normal. Okay, and if I scroll down, I have metallic, right? Remember with metallic, it's metallic or it's not. Okay, you really don't find materials that are semi-metallic, right? Typically, they're metal or they're not. So black is not metal, white is metallic. Okay, so there we are. You have metal, right? So I just fixed this. I forgot to delete the layer and put a fill layer. So now that that's in, you can see the metallic is working. Okay, and we have to put an initial roughness for this. Let's say point 2, start point 2. Okay, and color. You don't really need color, really. That will be my base. I need to add another layer, another fill layer, and this will have just roughness and a little bit higher, say zero point 0.5. And black mask, let's look for any rust here. Uh, grunge stains large, let's see. And prop that in. Nope, sorry. Black mask, got to add a fill. And then you can prop that in. There you go. So now you get stains. Maybe stains aren't the best. Let's try just more grunge. Look at that. Okay. Again, look at your roughness. See what that looks like. Okay. You can edit these here to an extent. You can still edit these when you get into Maya, but best to have them as close as you can get here. Right. So that's a pretty visible change. Say 0.35, 0.2, okay, and zero point 0.3. So slight change, not too big of a change. I could also turn this up by roughness. Let's say start everything at 0.3. This would be, let's say, 0.45. Do that. Yeah. Okay. And then you'd expect some dirt to be here too, right? Because dirt wouldn't splatter on this and not hit the metal parts. Okay. So instead of recreating the dirt, I can go to my wood tankard, just select layer, Control C, go back here, Control V, and copy it on, right? And I can now lower my height value. There you go. Once you're through. Okay, so you got some dirt here as well. And again, these are all editable, right? So think I can adjust my scaling here. If it doesn't look quite right here, it says offset, that's scale. This might be a bit better, something like that. I can move it around. Okay, and now that we have these, we're ready to export them uh, and bring them into Maya. Okay, so assuming you're all happy with this, you can now go to File, Export Textures, and you can select which ones. So whatever has a checkbox will export. Go to your output templates, you choose Arnold AI Standard because that's what we're using. Okay, then you just fill this in. So output template is correct. I go by global settings, right? You have to point this where you want to save it. So in my case, I'm going to look for my uh, source images folder. And usually what I do is I make a new folder from Substance, right? Okay. So from Substance, I can even make a subfolder. So say bottle and tankard, right? And then save it there. And I'm happy with that. Um, I can just click export. Okay. So here, though, you have these choices of what kind of file you want. Typically, color, PNG 8 bits is fine. Right? You would want a bit more for roughness. I'd do like 16 for this. Metallic is just a color, so you don't need to change that. Okay, normal, if you have any, maybe 16 bits. We don't have normal maps, right? So I'm going to turn that off. We're not doing that. We're only doing color. This is roughness, metallic, and height. Okay, so this one you don't need either. Right? It's the same for all of these. So glass bottle doesn't need a metallic. Tankard metal doesn't need normal. Missive tankard wood doesn't need metallic or normal or this. Okay. So once that's done, sorry, roughness. This is 16 and roughness for this 16. Okay. Once you're okay, hit export and you can see it exports pretty quickly. And once you're done, you can get back into Maya now.